All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Fearless Millionaire Show. This is where we spotlight, fellow fearless millionaires. It's those kind of people who've managed thoughts of self-doubt. They've gained clarity by clearing out that mental fog and maybe confusion that they've had before in the past. And they've also learned how to manage fear, those moments that we all experience in life, especially when it comes to real estate. How to manage that. So I wanted to tell you a little bit of background about our guest. I actually met him online. We've actually never met in person yet. But, because I've been in this industry for like over 13 years, I've seen a lot of real estate gurus, right? One of the things I've seen a lot of these guys, some of them have been my best friends over the years and they're doing their thing. One thing I noticed about Seth though, is that constant giving value. I call that the GOVs, right? The gifts of value. And he's always weekly dropping GOVs to his community. And it is amazing. So when I see someone that committed, and when I saw the amount of commitment and dedication that Seth gives to his community in the industry, in the real estate community, it's something I aspire to, because man, that level of commitment is huge. So when I saw what Seth was doing, I reached out to him and I said, hey man, have you been to this group or this mastermind and all that? And he's like, no, I kind of just, I'm doing my own thing. And I really like that, because I was also blazing that trail. I was leaving the guru industry and that I really looked up to what Seth has been doing. So that's why I invited him on the show. And actually, you guys know this, I don't have many people interviewed on the show, hardly any. And I just really wanted to pick out some really important people that you can learn from, that you can, see where their background is and what they've gone through. And that's why I said I had to have Seth on the show. So Seth Williams, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Hey, Nathan. Thanks so much for that really kind introduction. I appreciate that. And I didn't realize you don't interview a lot of people on this show. That's really cool. That's awesome.
I don't.
To be one.
I don't. Yes, it's very limited. It's very limited, man. We do a lot of training, but we hardly do any interviews. So that's why you really stuck out. And I was like, this guy, he adds value.
No, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I'm really happy to be talking to you. And I'm glad you reached out those years ago and that we've been able to stay in touch. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background. I mean, I know you from, and maybe people don't know your community, which you can share, but I know you from the guy who's been committed. I think of two words, Seth, and I think of consistency and commitment. And that's the two words I just literally label you as, like consistency and committed, and you just keep going at it. So I'd love for you to share more in depth about maybe before you got started in real estate, how you broke through the barriers of getting through your first few deals or your first deal, and also the community that you've built. Yeah,
for sure, man. Well, I got into real estate, I guess the idea first entered my brain back in about like the 2005, 2006 era when I was in college. And I was kind of just feeling like a lack of direction, like not really on fire about any particular career. I eventually landed on banking, and the only reason I landed on that was because it would be like an indoor desk job with normal hours, that kind of thing. It's not like I loved, numbers and loans and all this stuff, but in that process of being kind of confused about where to go and what to do after college, I had the good fortune of discovering the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I'm sure everybody and their mother out there has probably read already. It's a great book. It was just in terms of like introducing me to this new thought process of really just how to think about money and how to think outside that, 9 to 5, 40-year and then retire career that everybody seems to just think they need to do. One of the things he talks about in that book is the idea of real estate, but he doesn't really give a whole lot of details on what to do or where to find deals or any of that stuff. And I just thought, okay, well, I'll start looking for real estate for sale in my area. And, at the time in the U.S., 2006, prices were just nuts, kind of like they are today, honestly. It was, I want to say darn near impossible to find any deal that made financial sense at that time, at least in terms of publicly listed deals on the MLS. It was really, really hard. And, what I didn't realize at the time was that I was looking in all the wrong places. I was spending hundreds of hours analyzing deals from people who are not motivated to sell. Everything about my approach was wrong. And it was a couple of years later, after, sort of entering the workforce and just sort of being disappointed as I thought I would be working a job, when I finally heard about this idea of searching for very specifically vacant land properties on a delinquent tax list from the county, like a very specific targeted approach. And I tried it and it worked amazingly well. Like it blew my mind just how well it worked. Like instead of me wasting my time trying to find people were calling me. Like I was able to make crazy low offers and people would accept them. It was awesome.
I want to ask you a question though, because you mentioned that time frame, and I think that's something that a lot of people go through, Seth, is that what was that time frame? Was it years? Was it months? Like that whole process of searching to actually finding that strategy?
Yeah. Well, I probably spent at least 2 years trying to chase after. Basically, I thought there were two routes I could take, two and only two that existed in the universe. I could either buy a rental property and just, go the slow route, or I could buy a beat up house and fix it and flip it. Like those are the only ideas I even was aware of. Sure. And, as you know, that's like one of thousands of different things you can do with real estate. But
so true.
Yeah, going after those two options, inherently there's a lot of difficult things about both of those routes, especially if you have no idea how to find good deals. Just it requires debt, requires risk. There's all kinds of things you have to fight against to maybe make money at the end of the day. If you screw something up, you'll actually lose money, a lot of it. So after seeing just how hard it is to make money in those, respective approaches, when I found land and found how easy it was to find deals, and probably one of the more important things for me is that it did not require debt. Like I could buy properties with the cash in my bank account for a few $100, free and clear, and then flip them and make thousands from that. And that was just such an incredibly winning combination of things. And my wife is she's very, very much against things that require big financial risks. Every time I've ever talked to her about any business idea, she's just like, "Oh no, this is not good." But when
we go again.
Yeah, exactly. But when I explained the whole concept of flipping land and that business model and how that works, it was the first time ever that she was like, "Yeah, that actually might be okay." And that alone was like a miracle. Finding anything that she was okay with. So that was a big deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think for me, one of are you familiar with the Enneagram test? Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Yeah. I just heard about it this past year. It's pretty cool. It's a test you can take. It takes about 5 minutes and it gives you very, very, in my case anywhere, stunningly accurate, description and portrayal of how your brain works and different things that, you tend to think about and gravitate towards. It's just very enlightening. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Wow. How do you spell that? You said Enneagram?
Yeah, good question. Let me look it up here. It's okay. So it's ENNEAGRAM.
Okay.
When I first learned about it, I was surprised that it's actually a lot of people know about this and talk about it. For some reason, I'd never heard about it. So but anyway, it's there is if you just Google Enneagram test, I think it's one of the first few results you'll find a free test, and it's super quick. But anyway, long story short, I am an Enneagram type 6, which is called the loyalist. So the way that my brain works is I'm super loyal, super committed. When I decide to do something, it's going to happen. Nothing's going to get in the way of that. However, a lot of my thinking and decisions are based on fear. I'm just a very scared person in a lot of ways. Like I think about every possible thing that can go wrong. I'm always trying to make contingency plans in my head. Like no joke, like literally every single day, my brain is thinking about, oh no, what if this disaster blows up in my face? Now, how am I gonna avoid this pain over here? It's honestly, it's kind of a drag, to be honest, but really, there's 9 different Enneagram types. All of them have sort of a downside, but at the same time, it's also sort of a superpower. Like if you understand how your brain works, what you're sort of weak in and what you're also naturally strong in, you can use that to your benefit. But
absolutely.
But anyway, long story short, because I'm such a fear-based thinker, that was another reason why the land business just made tons of sense and was a really easy sell for me, because it wasn't so much about making millions on every deal, but just the fact that like I could get in, get out, do it quick, not risk my life savings doing it. I mean, nobody can really steal or destroy my property. There's no tenant. There's a lot of stuff that just can't go wrong with vacant land, and so that just kind of fit my personality real well.
Awesome. Yeah. Wow. That is so amazing. What you said about that test, which I'm definitely going to go try myself, so important. Because one of the things, the foundational principles that I teach at the Fearless Millionaire community is the clarity part. And I see that as being clear with yourself, knowing who you are as a person, how you operate in moments of fear, the steps you take action in your business, how it's going to dictate the steps that you do take and the reason why you did that, and that's like so important, so valuable. So I am actually going to look deeper into that, and I'm going to study it myself, take the test myself, and dive deeper, because funny enough, Seth, we have a very similar background when it comes to real estate, like the rich dad, poor dad, 2 years of studying. I'm just a 180 though on the other side though. When you talked about fear and commitment, I'm like just the opposite. And I've gotten better in the past 5 years since I've been like married and committed, like marriage really kind of like, whoa, okay.
I get it.
But yeah, that was like, a game changer. But it was like just the opposite. It was like, I'm just going to go in. Who cares about the details? We'll figure that out later. And we're just going to plow right through this. And my wife has actually taught me she has more of your approach, which is, hey, what if this happens? What about this detail? What about that? And I would stop and think, I'm like, why are we even thinking about this right now? But it's powerful because you can use it to your benefit, and I love that. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And
mark my words, Nathan. I'm just going to make a bold prediction that when you take that test, you're going to be a type 3. Okay.
Type 3. I'm writing this down.
I could be wrong, but based on the few minutes I've been talking to you, I actually have a really good friend that you remind me of in a big way. It's almost like you're the person. I'm just talking.
Twin brothers.
He's a super strong type 3. So anyway, that's my prediction. You'll have to let me know which.
Okay. I'm going to let you know. I'm definitely going to let you know. Yeah, that's awesome. I'd love for you to share about your first deal. Can you, so far we know you spent 2 years learning, you got interested in this strategy. Can you tell us about your first deal? Was there maybe some story that happened or some of the experiences you went through on your first deal?
Yeah, sure. So first deal I did in the land business anyway was when I found a county that was just to the north of me. It was a rural county where I knew there'd be lots of land. And I sent out somewhere in the neighborhood of like 300-ish postcards. Postcards just said, hey, I see you own land. I'm looking to buy land in your area. Give me a call if you want to sell. Just a simple yellow postcard that said that. And I had lots of people respond to that. And the first person that accepted my offer, he owned a half acre, and I sent him an offer for $331. And I also offered to pay off his delinquent taxes, which was, I think, less than $200. And he accepted that, and we went ahead and closed. His story was, he was like a really, really old guy. At least he sounded like it on the phone, in California. His property was in Michigan. He hadn't seen the property in like 20 years. Wow. And I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, he was just trying to get rid of that. So I bought that. It was really simple. And I ended up reselling it about 11 days later for $1,900 on Craigslist. Wow. Somebody from Chicago came up and bought it for me. So yeah, it's not like retirement money necessarily, but it was, I had tried a lot of different random business opportunities in my life. And that was like just the fastest, easiest, best money I had made up until that point.
Sure. But you know what? Those, and this is something I always tell my clients and I stress to the community is this. I say, listen, your $1 million day is not when a wire comes in for $1 million. It's not. It's the funniest thing. Your $1 million day is when you have your biggest breakthrough when you're just getting started. Those are the $1 million days, because what happens is you stack those feelings, the experiences, those emotions all carry through the mental, fog going away, all the confidence that's built, all that leads up to the $1 million day. And most people, especially in the beginning, they're thinking like, when is my big payday coming? And I can understand that. I mean, that's why we're in business in the first place. But I think a lot of times people like skip over or they discredit those initial emotions, those initial moments and emotions of confidence that are built, because that's what sets you up to do 100,000 a year, 500,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever it is for that person. It's in those moments. So you did that. That happened to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it's also worth noting, like a lot of times the big headline stories you hear about, or the things that people highlight in shows like this, are like the deals where you made $50,000 in one shot, and that will certainly happen. But like, if you expect that every time, like you're going to be disappointed in most cases. Like a lot of success in business are just like small base hits, one after another. And they kind of add up over time. So. Yeah.
That's so true. Wow. So after you closed your first deal, I know you said it wasn't a bunch, but was there a deal you went out and you like maybe your first big payday and then you went out and bought a new car or whatever? I don't know. I'm not even into cars, but was there a moment that you had where you're just like, wow, I closed this really big deal and we did something, we traveled, or was there something like that for you?
Yeah. I mean, what the biggest like grand slam deal that I had my first 3 years, I think it was 3 years. I had, just been doing what I always do, sending out postcards to a delinquent tax list. That's not what I still do today, but that's what I did for many, many years because it works really well. But, I was sending out postcards, and somebody called me back who owned 12 acres of land on Lake Huron with 500 feet of beach frontage. So like huge property on the water. Like, this could be like $1 million piece of land in a lot of areas. So I made her an offer for $4,257, I think was the exact number, and she accepted that. Amazing. When I made the offer, it was almost like, like nobody accepted this. And most people in their right mind wouldn't accept that. But this person just happened to be in a situation where her story was she had bought this property with her husband like years ago. It was their plan to build their dream house there. Her husband left her in a very tragic, disappointing, sad way. And this property, it was just like a really bad memory weighing on her. And it wasn't like a money issue. It was just like I want this out of my life. Like, just take it away type thing. And this kind of person, in most of these cases, these people are not going to go out and list their property for sale or call an agent. Like, for one reason or another, they're either apathetic or it's not at the top of their priority list to do this. And if I don't find them and make it easy for them, it's just either go to delinquent taxes or it's just going to sit there. So really, it's kind of about finding these opportunities and just bringing value to the table in terms of offering solutions for them. And so she sold that. And then I ended up, and by the way, I'll mention this was in 2011 in Michigan, which was the number 50 worst state in the country economically. Like, everybody wanted out of Michigan. It was just a bad place to be. And to own vacant land in a place where nobody's building anything, I mean, it's not a great situation. But because I paid such a low price for it, I was able to list it, and I sold it for $45,000, which is still an amazing price for that kind of property.
Yeah, of course.
But I 10x'd my money in that deal. And I actually used that to buy my first rental property. And so that was how I celebrated. I did not buy a car, though. Though I will say it was kind of interesting. I remember after that deal happened, and I was remember driving by a dealership and just thinking to myself, I could just go buy one of those new cars for cash right now. I thought it, but I didn't do it.
It's so true, right? Yeah, and that's such a good feeling, though. That's like what we call financial freedom, right? It's that moment where you say, you know what, I could buy that all cash. And financial freedom doesn't just mean you go buy whatever you want. It's the option to choose to buy whatever you want, and you chose to buy more. Yeah, the options. That's awesome. Yeah. You've done a lot in real estate over the past years. You know, I don't even know how many years, by the way. If you could share that. And also, I'd love to know what has been your biggest challenge. It doesn't mean it has to be specifically a deal that was a challenge, but maybe just in business or mentally, like what has been your biggest challenge?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been about 12 or so years, I think, since I've been full on into real estate. So yeah, it's been over a decade and it's gone really, really fast. Still seems like yesterday I got started, but
true.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most consistent challenges, one that I still don't think I've conquered, by the way, has been really just trying to be efficient with my time and finding the help that I need and outsourcing things effectively and really just getting other people on board to help me move the ship forward. I'm kind of a control freak in some ways, in that my hands have to be on everything and I got to make sure it's being done just right. I've learned to loosen my grip and let some of that stuff go. And the downside is inevitably nobody cares more about my business than I do. So you sort of have to become okay with little bad things happening or just things that aren't perfect. And that's just something that's really hard for me. And it hurts me, honestly. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not able to do because I have to be so in control of it. But it's something I think I've gotten sort of a little bit better with every consecutive year, but I'm not by any means there yet. It's something I'm always going to have to work on.
I think one of the books that you've probably read it already, but one of the books that really helped me years ago with that was The E-Myth. And have you taken it? Yeah, it's a great read, and it just really opened up, I think to add to that, to make the world, we live kind of like that virtual lifestyle, the laptop lifestyle, where the 4-hour work week by Tim Ferriss kind of put that into motion, especially for real estate investors. It kind of just opened up a lot of eyes and minds to hey, you can, leverage your time through outsourcing or delegation. It's just that part of letting go. And not only just letting go, but finding the right people. I will recommend a really good book for you because I've recruited, I've headhunted, I've trained over 2,000 people for some really big companies. And so that book is called Top Grading. It is kind of a little thick book. There is smaller versions and strategies on YouTube that you can check out, but it's by Brad Smart and it's called Top Grading. And it's probably one of the best books I've ever read and formulas I've ever practiced in headhunting or recruiting over the years. And still to this day, I'm still, even in Uganda, I've been hired as a consultant to go recruit people, some big people from big companies because of that. So little skill, but Top Grading, it's a great book if you want to check that out.
I'll check that out. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for sharing that biggest challenge. That is something that a lot of people go through, is especially when you're starting off as, let's call it the solopreneur, to expanding and trying to do more deals. Maybe someone's consistently closing, I don't know, whatever, let's just say 2 to 4 deals a month. And then they're trying to double that, that double the volume, but now you're doubling the workload. Or do you, use human capital or software capital, right? Software technology. So to make those things go a little bit better and smoother. So I want to transition though, because after all these years of experience you've had in real estate, you've taken your knowledge, your experience, and you've catapulted that online through your community and what you share and the gifts of value that I was talking about earlier. I'd love you to share a little bit about that. How did that come about? How did it get started? And share more with our audience about your community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So yeah, it was back in 2012 when I discovered a blog called smartpassiveincome.com. A friend had shared that with me. Are you familiar with that?
Is that, Pat Flynn's, right?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Pat Flynn has nothing to do with real estate, but he was just putting out blog content and videos and podcasts all about how to make money online. And what really impressed me was a couple things. First of all, he was just like giving everything away, like stuff that I legitimately would have paid a lot of money for, like course-worthy stuff. He just puts it out there. And I was like, what in the world? And then I looked at, he used to post income reports. And like, he was making a lot of money from this. Yeah. And I'm just like, how is this even, like, this is free. Like, how's he even making money on all this stuff? And I just thought it was really kind of brilliant how it all was put together. Because, you know, he makes money from promoting affiliate stuff, and not just any affiliate product, but like things he actually uses and like actually adds a lot of value. He explains how to use it. And I just thought to myself, you know, like I'm a pretty bad salesperson, but I could really do well at that. Like I could do good at just explaining the value, just helping people understand things and letting them make their own decision whether or not they want to use the thing. And even like beyond that, just like showing people how to do stuff. Like even if it makes me no money at all, like just be a helpful person. Yeah, because I know like when I was learning various aspects of the real estate business, not just land, but like rental properties and just finding deals in general. Like there were so many little obstacles that I had to figure out on my own. Like nobody was going to explain that to me, like where to find the best data, like what to say on your mail pieces when you send them out, how to research properties, all this stuff. And I was like, what if I just like say, hey, boom, this is what's worked for me. Feel free to steal it and do whatever you want with it, that kind of thing. And people have found a lot of value in that. And it's been just really awesome to, you know, do something that I'm actually good at in terms of, you know, just explaining difficult concepts and making them simple and easy to understand. And it's a blessing to be able to excel and make money putting out content that's, you know, that's fun for me to do and helpful other people. So it's been going since 2012. It's mostly a blog at this point. We're working on other stuff. We've got some free ebooks and stuff you can get. We've got a Facebook community. There's a membership site at RETipster.club that's specifically on the land business, like how you can learn and grow that kind of business if you're into that. But yeah, that's just a project that I've been working on for a lot of years now. So it's really fun.
And it's an amazing project, by the way. I really got to emphasize this to the community. And by the way, everyone, it's REITipster.com. And everyone who's watching this probably already knows it because I've already talked about it so many times.
I'll actually clarify. It's RETipster.com.
RETipster, sorry.
But I'll tell you what, though. I actually own REITipster.com, too. Go there. It'll redirect you to the right place. So just let it go.
Okay. Exactly. Smart guy. See, people make mistakes and he catches them. No, it's true. Cause I would probably spell it REI Tipster, real estate investing, but RETipster.com. And I just want to reiterate something that he said, because it's so true that you really do give away everything. Like you explain in detail. And that was one of the things that what you did to Pat Flynn and his website is the same thing I did to you. And I went, whoa, wait a second. I literally, not in a bad way, I went, holy smokes, this is it. This is the future. This is the Uber of the real estate investing education industry. Because see, from my world, and you're very familiar with this, Seth, from the world I grew up in, I was like 17 years old when I got into the Rich Dad Education Company and the Wealth Intelligence Academy. I was so young, involved in the seminar industry, and where, you know, packages and training can cost over $100,000 or $50,000, and that's even without a coach. That's just like, come to our 10 seminars, right?
It's expensive.
Yeah, absolutely, man. When I got started, I paid over $25,000. I didn't get a coach, man. I had to fly to the seminar, right? I had to fly to the workshop, pay for my hotel, pay for my flight, and just go to these. Anyway, long story short, my point is that you have Uberized the real estate training education industry by what you saw. You saw someone who was doing something successful. They left clues. You copied them. You just carbon copied him in our industry. And that's why I talk so highly about you and what your website does for people, because It's just there. And then you generate for your time, your effort, and everything you put into that, your baby, right? You reap the benefits. You reap the contacts, revenues, and building a business, a whole nother online business. So I really wanted to emphasize that to the group here because, again, for everyone new to watching this video who hasn't heard me say that website yet, you definitely got to check it out because it's literally one of the best. And you also have a Facebook group too, right?
Yep, we do. Absolutely. So it's free to join. So as long as you're a reader of the blog, you can go check it out and join into the conversations there.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so great. All right, Seth, thanks so much for sharing all that. But I want us to leave off with one last question for you. I want to know what would be the most like your best personal development advice that you could share with someone who's mentally stuck in their business, not financially, right? Just a mental roadblock that they're having. Maybe it's an experience that you've shared. What's some personal development advice you could share?
Yeah, interesting. So if you're not financially stuck, but you are mentally stuck, I know as any entrepreneur can understand, I've experienced my share of that in really every business I've run. And I think at the end of the day, like what it comes down to is, first of all, don't give up. Like you're always going to hit these dry spells where it's just like, man, this is just not fun. Like this isn't where I thought I would be. Like, is this all there is to life? Tell me there's something more than this. But also, are you familiar with Perry Marshall at all? Is that name?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to talk to him a few months back on our podcast, and he's got this book. He's sort of known for the 80-20 marketing.
80-20 rule.
Yeah.
Yep.
And really the whole idea of 80-20, it applies not just to marketing, but to like literally everything in life, everything in the universe. And it's this idea that really 20% of your efforts are going to produce 80% of your results, and 80% of your efforts are going to produce 20% of your results. So it's about figuring out, like, of all the things you're doing in your day-to-day and week-to-week, like what is really producing the results? Like what are the leverage points where if you just focus on that stuff and stop wasting your time with the things that aren't getting anywhere, like how much further could you get? And it's one of those things that it's really easy to pay lip service to that and just like talk about it. But like I know from experience, even myself, like to actually apply that, actually have the discipline to lay out everything you do and really pick it apart and understand, okay, what is really working? Like it takes a lot of work and thinking to do that. But man, if you can, man, it can explode your potential and really help you stop treading water and actually getting to where you want to go. And that's something that we've been trying to apply over the past 6 months. And I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like steering a cruise ship. Like it doesn't like have to turn on a dime necessarily, but if you can hone that and really make it just a part of your life in general, you'll be much better off in the long run. So.
That's so true. So very powerful. That is so powerful. It's something, you've actually vocalized that to this community as I watch in this video, but I've personally lived that. It's always thinking, and you know why? It's because I think it's the way I was brought up. I was brought up on literally one of my first jobs was on an assembly line. And we could only take so many steps to the left and to the right because every move you made was important.
Yeah, for sure.
You literally, and so over the years, it was, is this movement, is this action getting me the most result that I need to be right now? Is this, because if I don't, everything's going to get stuck. That's literally what was in my head working on an assembly line. So I took that into real estate. I took that into consulting. And I took that into my personal life and said, is this bringing me value right now? Yeah. Is this the highest and best thing that I could be doing in my business right now? So that is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Seth, thanks so much, but I know you got to get back. We got to get back to our businesses, but I just want to thank you so much for being a part of our show today, sharing your website, sharing your community. You have a podcast also.
Yeah, yep. The RETipster podcast, pretty original, brilliant, creative name, I know, but yeah, it's basically just we actually do a lot of interviews. That's kind of like the usual thing we do at this point anyway. But we bring on lots of interesting guests, people that like I personally just find really fascinating, whether their story or their strategy or they've had some cool thing happen to them in the real estate business. We talk to those folks on our show. So that's
awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on our show today and sharing your story, to our members. By the way, everybody who's watching this, in the next week or 2 weeks or months from now, be sure to get over to Seth Williams' websites, listen to his podcast, follow him on his journey, like his stuff, check out his websites and stuff. And it's so powerful. I've already said this so many times to the community, but just get over there and dive in. Let them know you heard the podcast from us and our show. Sure. In closing, I just want to remind every single viewer that you are on a journey. This journey is a mental battle every day that even Seth battles with, I battle with. It's just something that you have to remain strong in all those moments. It's just a matter of taking one step after another, and then you'll eventually get to your financial destination, whatever that is for you. Yeah. So thanks for everyone for being a part of the show. Thanks again, Seth. I really appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the future. All right,
I appreciate it. Thanks again.